Now, you would also be the part of discussion, so please, listening, thinking of your questions or objections or suggestions. At the end, there will be, I hope, some 5 minutes for you to join in. But now, let us begin. So discussion is local context of innovation capacity building in EU. And participants will be Vice-rector for Research at Rīgas Tehniskās University, Talis, Juhna. Then we will ask back Deputy Director for Research, Ministry of Education and Science, Department of Higher Education, Research and Innovations, Jānis. Yeah, they need some round of applause because it's tough discussion. Mārtiņš Zemītis, Deputy Head of European Commission Representation. Welcome. And then we have a very honorable moderator for this event, Chief Operating Officer at EIT himself, Mr. Adam Rottenbacher. Adam, welcome.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me, see me.
We can see you and hear you. So from now on, next 25 plus 5 minutes are yours.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And also thank you for the very inspiring presentations and opening speeches. So I would like to start with a question to Vice-rector Juhna, so actually the last presenter. He has explained, I think, in great details what RTU is doing in terms of building the local innovation ecosystem in Latvia, and how they work together with the kids, 4 of them already, to also connect the local innovation ecosystem to the pan-European networks. So we know that universities are great at developing talent, generating novel ideas and technologies. The difficulty is sometimes to take those ideas out of the lab and to the market in terms of successful, commercially successful products and services. So, Mr. Vice-rector, could you maybe give a few examples where this has happened already successfully in your ecosystems, in your experience?
I think a few actual examples were mentioned before, and then maybe I'm not just talking about Riga Technical University. I can go a little bit, wider. Let's say the example of the company Alina. They actually are. They used to be the scientists were at the Latvian University, and using different, let's say. Actually, they started with a business incubator. We had a so-called green business incubator together with Latvian University. It was something like 7 years ago, together with Norwegian agency. So she started as a scientist, and then she started to use business incubator, and then she tapped into all opportunities with EIT, and she established the first company. It was something like, I think, 5 years ago. So. And if you ask her, and I mean the company is successful, they are having sales, and they are working with this materials, ecological materials for protecting buildings. So and now actually they are also working on the next idea how to use these materials for recovering phosphorus from wastewater. Just an example, but then this is a very clear example how you change the mind of people if you propose something like EIT is proposing, yeah. So that's my short answer. But of course, we have other examples. We have one successful company. They are it's called Windmill. They are producing robots for sport. So they, for example, they have this robot which is acting as a goalkeeper. And they are selling this for NHL and other companies. So that's my short answer.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Actually, the CEO of Alina, Solvita, will, I think, join us for a panel later today, also to explain how she has and the company has benefited from the support of the EIT community. So we will hear more details about that. So the next question would be to Mr. Paiders from the ministry. So thanks a lot for the very interesting presentation of the R&D landscape of Latvia, some of the achievements and some of the challenges as well. I have read recently, actually, that Latvia has been named the most startup-friendly country in the world, which was quite interesting. And I wanted to just know your opinion. So what do you think the key ingredients are to that? And how can government institutions such as the Ministry for Education and Science can help?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. And when it comes to Latvia as a friendly country for startups and the reasoning behind it, I would say it mostly relates to some, I would say, entry requirements that we have previously surpassed. When we look at our, compare ourselves with our neighbors and our partners in Europe, we see that we are a country that has a very educated population. More than 40% of all of our young adults have a higher education degree. And when we look at the innovation side that is happening in our enterprises, which is in the recent years starting finally to emerge, we also see that in a lot of cases the main ingredient was either an applied grant, a research grant that happened in the university, or connections that they have with academia. But this also, I would say, provides necessary steps on how to move forward with this potential, because this is an issue where insufficient public capacity that is necessary for all sectors could be, I would say, a factor that lowers the ceiling that we could reach, and this is also true if we look at how productive our enterprises and how our innovative enterprises, where this lack of capacity often impedes progress. So when it comes to further activities, it's of course not just important to build capacity, which I mentioned in my presentation, but also to still keep and strengthen links that our universities and research organizations has with our companies. Right now, if we look at what percentage of all the revenue in public sector research organizations is done with direct collaboration with companies, it is not that bad. It's about 10%, which is comparable to most European countries. But if we are planning to have this necessary capacity increase and research funding increase, that it also needs to grow along with ongoing collaboration with companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if I understand correctly, then the role of the ministry would be to create the framework conditions, build the capacity, strengthen the links between the relevant actors, businesses, research, and universities. Excellent, thank you. I turn now to the representative of the European Commission, and we have already heard from the ministry that one of the challenges is the renewal of human capital, and actually this is also what we hear from our founders, CEOs, startups that we support, that one of the, let's say, the greatest challenge for them to growth is the access to talent. And if we talk about talent and consider that education is mostly a member state competence, what is that the European Commission can do? What can we do at the European level in order to help these companies, up and coming startups and scale-ups, to have access to a great pool of talent and also to be able to retain talent within Europe?
Thank you for the question. Of course, everybody is fighting for talent. The cities, the countries, EU is fighting for talent with other regions of the world. I mean, that's a perennial problem of the companies of different levels. I mean, EU has a number of tools which it puts at the disposal. Yes, education is a national competence for sure. The governments have not been willing to sort of delegate that to Brussels, but there's a number of elements. I mean, the element that everybody, I think, in this room would have benefited from is the structural funds. We put a lot of money at the disposal through the development and the social fund, which also includes significant allocations for boosting human capital. Horizon was mentioned. Horizon is a great tool. It's been beefed up. The MEP Dace Melbārde mentioned it's a big program. It's helping the human capital. It's helping to build links, partnerships with other countries, with other universities, institutes. There's a new kid on the block. There is the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which will also help innovation. It will help drive reform. It will help drive digital skills. So this is a new almost doubling of the EU budget. A lot of investment, but also coupled with very important reforms, which are necessary to help build the right ecosystem for the businesses to flourish. So a number of these elements, and it's obviously up to the member states to choose the right policy mix to build the most appropriate system, which is fit for purpose, which is fit for the country. I think Latvia has done great in terms of reforming its research and innovation system. It has really consolidated the system. It has built stimuli for excellence, and I think the involvement in these European KICs, the Institute of Technology and Innovation. I was in a similar event maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It was called the lesser-known jewel of the EU. I'm sure this is no longer a lesser-known jewel. It's a well-known jewel, and then Technical University and others are very actively. I mean, this is another way created by the EU, which is also helping inter alia to boost talent. But at the end of the day, it is the universities, it is the companies, the actors themselves, who should be doing the pulling and pulling the talent which flows. Where there is interesting projects, where there is opportunities, where you can create value, where you can create product, which is required in the world, where there's demand for it. So with all the help, with investment and whatever we can do from the EU side, it is up to the companies, universities, and the governments to do the heavy pulling. We only give the tools, the instruments, the kind of the support systems. So. Hopefully it's enough. I know it's not enough. I know there are other regions in the world which are perhaps doing more. But as a system, from Brussels to the national governments to the companies themselves, I think we have lots of opportunities in place to be able to excel and build towards these great goals of competitiveness in the world that we desire in Europe, which unfortunately is currently in a state of war.
Indeed, thank you very much. So there is indeed plenty of tools available for member states, including Latvia, from the EU to reach out to. Talking about a success of local innovation ecosystems, maybe one, if not the only sign, but definitely one that most people are looking at of success is the number of unicorns, these mythical creatures, which are startups or scale-ups that are valued at more than 1 billion euros. And I've read that Latvia has one such unicorn named Printful. It's an on-demand printing company. Started out from Riga, but now they have fulfillment centers all around the world. So definitely creating jobs and growth in Latvia and beyond. So this is for an open question to all of you. What do you think we should do more, both at the EU or at the national level, to have more champions such as Printful?
Maybe I start at the European level. I mean, I teach classes for students, and I updated the slide on the number of unicorns in Europe, which are based in Europe. And I did the initial presentation 3 years ago. There were 28 unicorns in Europe. I did one very recently, and I discovered there were 70 unicorns in Europe. So Europe is doing much better. It's building the unicorns. I think if you are really true to the figures, I think Latvia actually has 2. One doesn't call itself a unicorn. There's one which is, a more typical unicorn, started as a startup and grew very quickly. There's another one which is valued at 1 billion plus. As they say, every country is poor in its own way, but every country is rich in its own unique way. I don't think there's one size fits all how to build the unicorns, and every company is unique. And who would have believed that from we have 5 interesting areas of smart specialization in Latvia, and the unicorn is in an area of printing stuff on T-shirts. So you know, it's to have a vibrant market. You know, the marketplace. I'm a true believer in laissez-faire. You know, let the market decide and let the best win. Create a good ecosystem, which I think Latvia is doing very, very well. And if you have a good ecosystem, you know, then the entrepreneurs will find the opportunities, such as Printful did. You know, starting small and growing incredibly quickly, and now being the provider of specialized services in all the 5 continents of the world. But true to the fact, I think I would say that Latvia actually has 2 unicorns. Another one is in electronics, and that's a high value-added business, and that shows that you can not only print T-shirts in this country, but also produce high-tech electronic goods which are demanded worldwide in this country. So Latvia indeed is a very friendly country to business. It can do great things. If only the companies manage to overcome the valleys of death and have the appropriate financing in place and access that financing. And I think that European scale, we are doing a lot, but we need to do more to be able to create this financing condition so the companies would not, emigrate at an early stage to the Silicon Valley, to Israel, to Singapore, and London and elsewhere. And I think that's something where we should do more effort.
Yes, I agree with you, and maybe before Mr. Juhna also joins, actually there will be a panel later today about really also touch upon the cooperation between the EIC and the EIT. So another new kid on the block, as you mentioned, is the European Innovation Council that can provide bigger ticket funding, sort of blended financing, both grant and equity, to scale ups. So that's one of the ways in which the EU wants to address this funding gap that you mentioned. So we will talk about that more in detail later.
Ask maybe for one example of lessons we learn from having the unicorns, because I would bet that most of the unicorns, they failed sometimes. And actually the CEO of this unicorn, which is a Printful, he applied to our business incubator 7 years ago with completely different idea, with electrical charger, and he failed. Obviously now he's successful, and I think this is a first lesson. There will be failures, and most of the companies, what we see, they started universities, they fail once and again, but they get kind of taste of how to do this. So second is that what I mentioned during my presentation, and it also was said by Jānis Grēviņš, is about critical mass. So how to create internally, do we have enough smart people? I think yes, but maybe we need to also think about promoting international, more education, so having more mobility also from Europe and elsewhere. And the third point, I think that you need a market, you need customers. So it's very difficult to become uniform, I think, in Latvia if you just have your Latvian as a customers. Maybe, I don't know. But I think which asks for this, that you have to have ability to scale up, very clear programs how to scale up, and they are mostly abroad, I mean in US, where you have a customer. So how to do it exactly, it's up to EIT. Maybe they have good ideas, but I think this is a crucial point.
Yes.
And if I add from my part, I would like to emphasize on what Talis said about the critical mass, because if we look at the unicorns, is, I would say, not that important how many unicorns do we have, but whether behind them we have a system. Because if we look at our look at these unicorns, they are like the tip of the iceberg, a very beautiful tip of the iceberg. But you need to have this whole building blocks that support it. And when it comes to Printful, as an example, we see these, I would say, major local activities, local factors that definitely influence their success, because ICT sector, where it is where their actions are related, for, I would say, 10 or more years in Latvia, benefits from a tremendous interest from our young people who are starting to study, and we are, I would say, one of the most ICT intense country when it comes to our higher education system. But also what Martin said is also really important, because when it comes to innovation activities that results in good businesses and good entrepreneurial activities, they often will not be related directly to the areas that we specialize in, where we pour public investment in, because there's no way of us to predict in the late stages of the technology development in what way it will manifest. So this is also something that is really important when it comes to program design, especially innovation support program design. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just to reflect very quickly on what has been said. So indeed, it is very important for a startup to have customers. Otherwise, it's impossible to grow beyond the stage. And that's also where the EIT community, I believe, can be very helpful. We have dedicated access to market programs, where the co-location centers or the hubs in other parts of Europe and the business developers who work there help to support its startups enter those markets. And we also have a hub in Silicon Valley, actually, where we have soft landing programs for European startups and scale-ups. So I believe the KIC representatives will talk about that more later today. So being mindful of the time, I would give back the floor to our local moderator. And if there are any questions from the audience.
Thank you, Adam. Yes, I have a microphone, so please just put up your hand if you have any questions or suggestions, and announce yourself, please, so we know what interests you are representing.
Good morning, and thank you. I just tried to bring in the gender balance. That was the first, the first reason I took the floor. Well, my question may sound provocative, but that's intention. Okay, I listen. Everything is perfect in Latvia. The most friendliest place to for startups. Developed university innovation support system. Then tell me what is missing. What is the most crucial thing which is missing, or you see that it is underdeveloped, and where we have to focus our efforts? Thank you.
Thank you. What do we need? Except financing and, of course, some budget questions. Maybe it's a question about the culture. Yeah.
I think we want, this is very common for politicians. They want simple answers, and I think the thing is that we need to, embrace complexity. So there's no one, let's say, thing what you could change, and then we have a lot of unicorns. I think the one crucial thing for universities, of course, if you forget about the funding, what you were mentioning, is I think at least for science universities to put into curriculum very clearly that innovation skills, this is something what they get from university. I mean, and then I mentioned the programs around this. So, and we are doing this in RTU. We see how the new talent is actually growing. We are really happy that some of the students starting, as a just first year, and on the second year, when they are going through the programs, they're already participating in different hackathons. They are trying to build their prototypes, and this is slowly building these skills of future innovators. So this is what we can do on our behalf. What ministries could do on their behalf. The first is, of course, have to be very clear focus that the funding for science and in education system has to be increased. And what I mentioned also when we talk about this borderline issue, between a Ministry of Economics and a Ministry of Education. So if we want to be part of EIT, if we want to deal with innovation, we have to take it seriously.
Yes, and if I may add, of course, excluding the overarching issue of funding, it's also about not just the amount of funding, but whether the funding programs have the right incentives, and each program that directly relates to our research innovation building needs to have a system where it responds to those who perform and adjust accordingly. But also, it is not just in the way how our programs are designed and implemented. It is also a question where, in order for all of this to succeed, we need a system where every level of partner, either joint ministries who operate there, research organizations, and business side, needs to be on the same page. So this is a question topic where sufficient synergies are needed, but also trust, and for public organizations, often improvements in internal governance in order to be able to uptake it as well. Thank you.
But who will have to do it? So who will be the initiator of that cooperation, trust?
I would say it depends, because this is an issue where there is no one person, organization, or sector responsible. We, from our side with the ministry, we could do all of those things with our programs, but it is much larger than that. And when it comes to trust building between partners, it's something where either everyone is on board, or it will be a very slow process.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Lomu, thanks for the question. I would put that the most important ingredient which we should really have a focus on is openness. We need to have the universities open to foreign talent, to the best foreign professors that universities can attract. I think universities have to be open to the companies have to be open to the universities. Latvia has to be open to the world. You know, we see small countries in Europe which are very successful, are very, very open countries, which speak foreign languages, which are open, which have a lot of self-confidence, but they are also willing to attract a lot of talent, collaborate, partner at all levels, at the governmental level, at the university level, at the firm level. You know, only through being open to the world, to the ideas and exchange, I think, you know, this can flourish. And of course, it's important that the funding is there in place. The Commission has put in its recommendations, time in and time out, that the funding should be boosted. Of course, we cannot do with 0.7% of GDP for R&D. That's too little. I mean, that's just not. And perennially, year in and year out, yes, the government has put in extra funding for science in the last 2 years. That's to the government's credit. That's a very, very good step. It should be continued. We cannot only rely on the wonderful instruments from the EU, the structural funds, the whatever not. We need to have a strong science base, and from that on, being then open, I think then it will flourish. But openness, I'd put it as a very, very important element to the system.
So, does anyone in the audience has something else to add to this? Yes. That's it? Yes, and then?
Also, for the sake of gender balance. So I just wanted to add that from my experience, I believe that the one ingredient that is missing for Latvia, in particular if we look at the good example of Rīgas Tehniskās University, it's really the need for better modern infrastructure. If there is no modern infrastructure, modern technologies in the universities and academies, it's very difficult to speak about producing new solutions and products and so on and so on. So it's I think one point I would like to mention, and another point you were asking. So who has to do it? So, and I think I like very much this concept of creative intermediaries. So it's something very new one. I'm just wondering whether you have heard about it, what you think about it. But I truly believe that we need more people, and maybe even trained people that the institute could do it. So which are able to work on the borders and really to see how to connect these different competencies, institutions, and sectors.
Mm-hmm. So connectors. Before I go there, yeah.
I'm sorry, I think that overlaps with the concept of boundary organizations, which is something that's been in the discussion, in the discourse for a longer time.
Do we have them in Latvia?
Well, I think that's, there is definitely work to be done, because the question is like, are there organizations that can transfer between academia and business well? And this is exactly the sort of event to foster that. So I would say, again, this is an issue with good opportunities for progress.
All right. Do you have another answer for this? Yeah?
Agri sauca, University of Latvia. I'm nuclear scientist in nuclear energy and also investor and entrepreneur. In my opinion and from my experience, one of the problems of transferring from startups to real industry is a systemic problem in our country. That is that minority shareholders and investors are systematically abused and defrauded by majority shareholders. And we see the consequence in our industry. For example, in Latvia capital market, we lay in stable last place in European Union, several times behind the next.
How that can be done? What is the step we should take to solve the problem?
The problem is to protect minority shareholders and investors. Otherwise, money will not flow in.
Interesting. Thank you. And to end this discussion, and thank you, Adam, for moderating. We will see you again. But you definitely, I guess, have also some answer for this.
Well, what I would consider is indeed that, well, I'm sorry that I'm saying that, but sooner or later we end up with example of America. And that is, well, how we can make university a place where the business is just want to sleep and live. So yeah, well, I do not say it's Minister of Education. Maybe it's a Ministry of Economy. Maybe it's business organizations itself which could motivate and boost. But if people who are actually doing business and are motivated, if they do not see the reason to sleep and live in university, then we can provide the best infrastructure and we can provide the best knowledge for ourselves, and we are very glad always with our knowledge. But what we need are people who move it forward, who test, who fail, and move it forward. And I also take the point what our honorable discussant said, that openness and skills, actually, can we provide up-to-date, real, and sometimes ground-to-earth skills how to do business, and that would be my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And a round of applause to all the discussion panelists and to Adam for moderating this.